My name is Nic von Rupp. I'm 30 years old. I'm a professional big wave surfer from Portugal, and we're here in Nazaré, the heart of big wave surfing, and this is my warehouse where I keep all my equipment, my surfboards, my wetsuits, my jet skis, and my safety equipment in general. You know, it's strange. Most of the people approach me and, they look at me as I'm some kind of superhuman, But I understand it, like I used to look at my idols the same way. I used to look at the people that surf the huge waves as they're some kind of, fearless people with superpowers. I totally understand it. The ocean is such a deep, dark place. The waves are so huge. There's tons and tons of water chasing us down. And, it's so far away from normal people's daily routines. There's only a very small percentage of people that are able or that have the will to surf waves this size. And let me tell you what, growing up 20 years ago, I used to be just like you. I used to have fears. I used to have limitations. For me, it was the rocks. When I started up growing surfing, I had a deep passion about surfing, being involved in the ocean. But I knew my dangers. I knew my limits. And those limits were the rocks. Looking back at my upbringings as a surfer in general, I was really passionate for the sport. For me, I was thrilled by the progression, by getting better every day. But I was just a normal kid, man. I wasn't fearless. I was very aware of the dangers of surfing. And one of them were the rocks, like I was really scared of rocks. It was more than a fear, it was phobia. I couldn't stand standing on flat water, on rocks submerged by water. At the time I was like 9-10 years old. It was definitely a thing in my mind, but my coach at the time, João, he realized that, and he taught me a lesson that I've brought all throughout my life, which is facing your fears, don't run away from it. What he did was spectacular, He realized that I was scared of rocks, and he walked me through the process of facing my fears, walking on those rocks. At the start it was like a big panic, like walking on those rocks. I was like, oh, get me out of here. And it's crazy how with time your mind adapts to the circumstances and you get familiar with an uncomfortable situation. This is something I really have taken as a lesson and brought with me throughout my career, the facing the fears, analyzing the fears, and not letting the fears block you through your end goal, you understand? It's crazy because fears does that. Fears puts limitations on things you want to achieve. Because what you want to achieve is walking on uncharted territory of what you're used to doing and not used to doing. And fear is part of the process. But, the most important is really to face your fears and slowly overcome your fears until you get to your end goal. With this lesson and attitude, I began my venture to explore and digging deep in me and climbing the ladder of big wave surfing, being afraid of 6-foot waves, not being afraid anymore, from 6 to 8 to 10 to 20-foot waves, to riding the biggest waves in the world. It was always the same lesson, It was always the same attitude. You're afraid. But even though you're afraid, you embrace that fear and try to overcome that fear. That's how I, climbed the ladder of big wave surfing, It's very complicated but very simple, You just you embrace it, you man up, you just go for it. That's it. The last time I really felt where I faced my fear and moved forward was the first time we paddled at Nazaré. This was a huge thing. This was 5-6 years ago. No one had paddled Nazaré back then, and people from all over the world came to Nazaré to paddle on that specific day. The conditions were perfect, huge waves, and there was a really good organization with Garrett, Cotty, Hugo Val, we had Jamie Mitchell and stuff like that. And I remember this was really serious, man. This was like life and death. We were having like prayers, everyone, and it was like, I hope we survive this day. And I remember rocking up to the lineup and seeing these huge waves, man. The waves the size of mountains, moving mountains coming into your direction. You understand? When you look at a mountain, it's there, it's standing, but it's not coming into your direction. When you're out on the ocean in the middle of the Atlantic, feeling that power of those mountains coming into your direction, it's a crawling up to mommy kind of feeling, you know. It's like, man, it's so scary, you know. And I remember I was sitting on the jet ski looking out those waves, and it was, holy shit, like, I don't want to do this, you know, like, this is next level. I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive this, or anyone is going to be able to survive this. It was really scary. For me, that first session was really victorious. I ended up not catching any waves, but just taking that step of being out there and being surrounded by that immense power of nature was a huge victory. And, you know, it only went upwards from there. People started surfing bigger and bigger waves, paddling, breaking records, breaking limits. And something that's really amazing as well is how your mind just adapts. You know, what used to be scary isn't scary anymore, you know? A 20-foot wave used to be really scary and isn't anymore. And so you know, that's the evolution of a sport. I mean, one of the biggest features or the best features a big wave surfer can have is being able to be calm in situations of stress, you know? That happens a lot, you know, when we're, for example, preparing, when there's sight on a big swell that's approaching, there's a lot of talk, you know, like a lot of hype, scientists, forecasters, claiming it's the biggest storm ever recorded, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's hard to perceive how it's possible to see bigger waves than we've seen. So millions of thoughts come through if we're going to survive, if we're going to ride the biggest waves and going to be glorious. It's really hard to abstract from that, you know. But even though, you know, you got to keep your head firm and look forward, have confidence on yourself, that you are going to do the best you can. Once you're in the water, it's a moment of zen, you know, like all that bullshit of hype is gone. It's you and the ocean. There's a deep connection between your human body and the power of nature, you know. It's like an animal instinct that comes into play, you know, that it tells you exactly what to do, how to act, how to survive in those extreme conditions. You know, like, for example, when shit hits the fan, you know, like, obviously when we're riding waves, we always hope for the best. We expect the best. We expect of making a wave. But obviously accidents happen, we fall, we get eaten by the wave, and the experience is so brutal, you know? The experience is so shocking. You're underwater, getting tumbled by tons of water, pushing you into the deepest corners of the ocean, you know, without oxygen. And most of the times when you fall, all your air gets kicked out. So it's like, man, it's a really deep experience, you know? For me, everyone goes through this experience in different ways. You know, the idea is to really keep calm as possible and, you know, relax, chill down, try to enjoy the moment and not waste any energy, because that energy, that oxygen is going to make you survive or not survive. You know, it's so important to face your fears, take that first step. Obviously, that first step is not going to bring you to your end goal, but it's certainly going to be a door opener to explore your limits. And that's the biggest lesson you can take, man. It's, you know, not run away from your fears, face them, overcome them, and take each step at a time until you achieve your goals. And this is something you can apply on everything. If it's big wave surfing, if it's a big project you got ahead, a business, any types of sports activities is the same. Is not run away. Face it and overcome it until you get there.